The modern art gallery stood tall against the Chicago skyline, its glass windows shining in the golden light of a September sunset. Inside, the annual Visions of Tomorrow art show was happening, but Lena Carter Mitchell wasn't paying attention to the art. She was nervously tracing the edge of her catalog with her fingers, a habit she had developed after working hard to become a curator in a field that wasn't always welcoming to people like her. At just 28, Lena Carter had already made a name for herself in Chicago's art scene. Her latest exhibition, Shattered Perspectives, had gotten great reviews. But even with all her success, she still felt like she was an outsider trying to fit in. Her hair was pulled back neatly into a bun, and she wore a beautiful emerald green dress that made her stand out, but in a quiet way. It was her personal motto: belong, but don't try to take all the attention. The gallery buzzed with the voices of Chicago's wealthy and famous. Lena Carter moved gracefully through the crowd, talking to donors and other curators, like her mentor, Catherine Hayes, had taught her. Catherine always said that being successful in the art world was about both talent and knowing how to navigate tricky situations. Lena Carter was lost in her thoughts when a voice interrupted her. It was warm and friendly, like an old friend offering a drink. "Your curation of the modern minimalism section is extraordinary," the man said. Lena Carter turned to see a tall man in a sharp suit. His name was Nathan Brooks Cooper. He was an architect working on a new building for the Performing Arts Center. Lena Carter had been following the project because she admired how it mixed old and new styles of architecture. Nathan Brooks smiled at her. "I'm more interested in how you use art to create space," he said, pointing to the way Lena Carter had arranged sculptures and paintings together to tell a story. Lena Carter was surprised by how much he knew about art. They spent the next hour talking about everything: art, architecture, and their personal lives. Lena Carter shared stories about her grandmother, who had been an art teacher and had taught her how to paint when she was young. Nathan Brooks laughed when Lena Carter teased him about his sister, Ela, saying he spent too much time talking to one person. "She's always worried about family traditions," he said. Lena Carter joked, "Sounds charming," which made Nathan Brooks laugh again. As the evening went on, they talked more about their passions. Nathan Brooks invited Lena Carter to get coffee sometime. Lena Carter wasn't sure. She had been in situations where people from different backgrounds didn't always get along, and she worried about what others might think. But there was something about the way Nathan Brooks looked at her. He saw her for who she really was, not just the color of her skin. "I'd like that," she said, surprising herself. They exchanged numbers, and Lena Carter caught her mentor, Catherine, watching her from across the room. Catherine raised an eyebrow as if to ask, "What's going on?" Lena Carter mouthed, "Don't start," but she couldn't stop herself from smiling. Later that night, when Lena Carter stepped outside, she felt a sense of change in the air. Her phone buzzed with a message from Nathan Brooks. "The coffee place is called Canvas and Coffee tomorrow at 2. Lena Carter smiled and replied, "See you at 2. She thought about her grandmother's words. "Art isn't just about beauty, baby girl. It's about seeing the truth, even when that truth isn't easy." Lena Carter felt like something big was about to happen, but she didn't know yet what it would be. The next day, Lena Carter arrived at the coffee shop early. Canvas and Coffee was a cozy place in the middle of Chicago, filled with art and mismatched furniture. She sat at a corner table, her fingers tracing the coffee stains left by previous customers. It made her think about all the stories that might have happened there. When Nathan Brooks arrived, he was dressed casually in dark jeans and a sweater. He smiled when he saw her, and Lena Carter felt her nerves ease a little. "You found the place," he said, and they laughed together about the big coffee cup sculpture outside. They ordered coffee and began talking again. This time, they shared stories about their childhoods. Nathan Brooks told her how he'd always been the odd one out in his rich family. Lena Carter talked about growing up in Southside Chicago with her grandmother after her parents passed away in an accident. Art had saved her, she said. The afternoon passed quickly, and the conversation was easy and comfortable. But then Nathan Brooks's phone rang. It was his sister, Isla, calling again. She didn't like Nathan Brooks spending time with Lena Carter. Nathan Brooks turned off his phone and smiled. "My sister can be a challenge," he said. Lena Carter understood. She had faced challenges in her life too. "I'm familiar with challenging," she replied calmly. The afternoon was perfect, but as they left the coffee shop, something felt off. Nathan Brooks had to leave early for a family dinner, but he still wanted to meet Lena Carter at an art opening later that week. As they parted, Nathan Brooks kissed Lena Carter gently, and she watched him walk away, her lips still warm from the kiss. Later that night, Lena Carter received a message from Nathan Brooks thanking her for the wonderful afternoon. She smiled, but before she could reply, another message came through from an unknown number. "Stay away from Nathan Brooks Cooper. You're not welcome in our world." Lena Carter stared at the message. She had faced prejudice before, but this felt different. It felt personal. But instead of feeling afraid, Lena Carter remembered her grandmother's words. She wouldn't let anyone stop her from pursuing what she wanted. She typed a reply to Nathan Brooks. "Today was perfect. Friday can't come soon enough." The threatening message she ignored. Some battles didn't need words. Meanwhile, across town, Nathan Brooks's sister Isla, was working on her own plan. She was going to make sure that Lena Carter never got too close to her brother. She was already searching for ways to stop their relationship before it could grow. But Lena Carter and Nathan Brooks didn't know that yet. The next Friday, the Contemporary Arts Center was full of excitement for the opening of a new exhibit. Lena Carter was there, dressed in a beautiful blue dress. But as the night went on, something didn't feel right. She kept waiting for Nathan Brooks, but he didn't show up. Finally, at 8:30, she received a message from him. "Family dinner running late. I'm so sorry." What Nathan Brooks didn't know was that his sister, Isla, had set up a series of events to keep him away from Lena Carter. She had invited important people over and caused a minor emergency just to keep him at home. Lena Carter stood in the gallery, feeling disappointed, when a man came up to her. His name was James Wellington, and he worked for a foundation. He seemed friendly, and they talked for a while. But what Lena Carter didn't know was that Isla had hired James to cause trouble. James spilled wine on Lena Carter's dress, and photographers hired by Isla started taking pictures. When Nathan Brooks arrived, he was shocked to see the scene. "Get your hands off her," he shouted. Lena Carter looked up, not knowing how to explain. Isla came up to Nathan Brooks, her fancy dress and perfectly styled hair looking very different from Lena Carter, who had a wine stain on her clothes. "Oh, Nathan Brooks," Isla said, sounding fake. "I tried to warn you. People like her always have hidden plans. Look how fast she moved on when you were late, and look at her stain. It's not a big deal to her." Lena Carter started to explain, but Isla wasn't finished. "I had you investigated," Isla said loudly, pulling out a folder. "Shall we talk about how you've been targeting rich men, the money you got for your art, and the connections you made with important people?" The folder had pictures that weren't real and told lies about Lena Carter's career. Isla had worked hard for this moment, trying to embarrass Lena Carter in front of everyone. But she didn't know something important. Nathan Brooks trusted Lena Carter and knew she was a strong person. "Are you done?" Lena Carter's voice was calm but loud enough for everyone to hear. "You've been working hard to make me look bad, but while you were doing that, Nathan Brooks and I were building something real, something that doesn't need your approval." She looked at Nathan Brooks with love in her eyes. "I don't know what's in that folder, but I know who I am. I've worked hard for everything I have. I've never lied or done anything wrong, not for success or for love." If you believe your sister's lies, then you don't really know me. Nathan Brooks looked at the folder, then at James, who was sneaking away, and then at Isla, who was smiling. Finally, he looked at Lena Carter, proud, strong, and still herself. "You're right," Nathan Brooks said slowly. "I was blind. I couldn't see how far you'd go to control my life. I didn't see how much you tried to poison everything just to get what you want. But I can see now." He stood next to Lena Carter, took her hand, and said, "I'm done letting you control my happiness." The gallery was quiet. James quietly slipped away, and Isla's face twisted in anger. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "Both of you. The only regret I'll have," Nathan Brooks said calmly, "is letting your judgment stop me from being with someone amazing." He turned to Lena Carter and wiped a little wine off her cheek. "I'm sorry I was late. Let me take you home." As they left, Hila shouted after them, "This isn't over." She was right. This was only the start of her trying to break them up. But as Nathan Brooks helped Lena Carter into his car, their hands held together, they both knew that some things were worth fighting for. Later that night, at Lena Carter's apartment, Nathan Brooks held her close on her balcony. Her dress was ruined, but her spirit was still strong. "I should have warned you," Nathan Brooks said into her hair. "Ayla will stop at nothing." "I'm not afraid of her," Lena Carter replied. But they both knew things were about to get tougher. "You should be," Nathan Brooks said seriously. "She won't stop." "Then we'll face it together," Lena Carter said, looking up at Nathan Brooks. "I didn't get this far by backing down." But what they didn't know was that Isla was already planning her next move. She called important people and made sure Lena Carter's next art shows were canceled and that no one wanted to work with her anymore. But she made a mistake. By attacking them, she gave them a reason to fight back together, and that made their relationship even stronger. The next day, Lena Carter sat in her office at the art museum, looking at emails that made her stomach hurt. Exhibitions were canceled, donors stopped returning her calls, and everyone who had supported her seemed to disappear. It was all because of Ila's influence. "You need to see this," said Catherine, her mentor, walking in with a tablet. The headline on an art blog made Lena Carter's heart sink. "Rising Curators' Questionable Methods Exposed." It was a bad article, mixing together parts of Lena Carter's life to make her look bad, without saying anything directly. It made it sound like Lena Carter couldn't have gotten successful without doing something wrong. "They're trying to erase everything I've worked for," Lena Carter said quietly, looking at a picture of her grandmother who had taught her everything about art. Catherine put a hand on her shoulder. "You didn't break barriers by being weak. You're Lena Carter Mitchell. You fight back." Lena Carter's phone rang. It was Nathan Brooks. "Have you seen the news?" His voice was full of anger. "Isla called an emergency meeting at work. She's telling everyone that my choices are bad for the company." Lena Carter felt guilty. "Maybe we should just..." Nathan Brooks cut her off. "Don't even think about giving in. I have a plan, but I need you to trust me." Trust was an easy word, but Lena Carter knew it meant something big. Looking at the photo of her grandmother, she remembered her grandmother's advice. Love isn't about playing it safe. It's about being brave enough to fight for what matters most. "I trust you," Lena Carter said finally. Nathan Brooks's plan was bold. He had set up a big presentation for a new project, but instead of playing it safe, he wanted to show how they could create a space that included all kinds of people and artists from different backgrounds. Isla was already looking for ways to hurt them. She found something from Lena Carter's past, something that had been resolved years ago, but she could twist it to make Lena Carter look bad. But Isla's husband, Bryson, started questioning her obsession with Lena Carter. One night he asked, "What are you really afraid of?" Isla hesitated, her perfect smile fading a little. "You don't understand. Lena Carter threatens everything I've built. She doesn't belong in our world." Bryson looked at her quietly. Maybe it's our world that needs to change. The next week felt like a big game. Hila tried to make stories about Lena Carter, while Lena Carter and Nathan Brooks worked hard to create their new vision for the arts project. Catherine helped by asking artists who had worked with Lena Carter to give testimonies about how great she was. Then one of the photographers who worked for Isla came forward with proof of what Isla had done at the gallery. This didn't fix everything, but it made people start to question Isla's version of the story. The night before the big presentation, Lena Carter and Nathan Brooks worked late in her small apartment. Nathan Brooks looked at the pictures of Lena Carter's grandmother on the wall. "Tell me again about her," he said. Lena Carter smiled softly. She believed that art could save lives, not just by making beautiful things, but by giving people opportunities. Every child who learned to create something beautiful learned they could change their world. Nathan Brooks hugged her from behind. "That's what I love about you. You see art as a bridge between worlds." Lena Carter smiled. "Then we'll build it stronger." The next day at the big presentation, things got even tougher. The boardroom was filled with people from the top of Chicago's architectural world. Nathan Brooks could feel the tension. Isla had found a way to attack him, accusing him of financial problems with the project. But Nathan Brooks was ready. When it was his turn to speak, he stayed calm and explained how the Performing Arts Center wasn't just about a new building. It was about bringing different people together and giving them a chance. He talked about how the center could include artists from all backgrounds and how that would help the city grow. Isla interrupted, saying that Nathan Brooks was letting his personal life get in the way of his work. But Bryson stepped forward and backed up Nathan Brooks. "The numbers are right," he said. "This project could bring in more money than the traditional plans." Isla couldn't believe it. "You're betraying me," she said to Bryson. But Bryson didn't care. He had decided that it was time for a change. In the end, the board voted for Nathan Brooks's project. It wasn't a perfect vote, but it was enough to show everyone that this new way of thinking could make the future better. Isla was furious, but Nathan Brooks was calm. "You have no idea what you've done to yourself," he told her. Later that night, Lena Carter celebrated with friends and people who had stood by her. Catherine raised a glass and said, "To bridges, both architectural and human." Everyone cheered. Nathan Brooks pulled Lena Carter out onto her small balcony. The storm that had been threatening all day had passed, and the city looked fresh and clean. "Move in with me," he said suddenly. Lena Carter blinked, surprised. "What?" "Not to the family mansion," he quickly clarified. "Let's find our own place, something that shows who we are, a fresh start." Lena Carter thought about it. "You know, this isn't the end," she said. "Isla won't stop." Nathan Brooks agreed. "She won't, but maybe that's not so bad. Every time she tries to hurt us, we only get stronger. We're building something new, proving that love isn't about fitting into someone else's world. It's about creating our own." Inside, they could hear their friends laughing and enjoying themselves. Lena Carter thought about how far they'd come from when they first met at the gallery. They had faced so many challenges together. "Yes," she said simply, reaching up to kiss him. But what they didn't know was that Isla, sitting in her luxurious penthouse, was planning her next move. She had a new plan, one she had been working on for months. It would make everything else she'd done look like small stuff. She was going to destroy them completely. While Nathan Brooks and Lena Carter thought they were winning, Isla knew the real battle was just beginning. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. "It's time," she said. "I don't care what it costs. I want them destroyed." Meanwhile, something was changing in the world around her. Sometimes the things we do to hurt others end up hurting ourselves instead. And inside Lena Carter's apartment, surrounded by love and happiness, a new chapter of her life was starting. The wind blew through the streets of Chicago, bringing the first cold of winter. Isla sat in her penthouse, surrounded by the fancy things she had worked so hard to get, but she knew that money didn't always bring victory. The failure of her last plan to break up Nathan Brooks and Lena Carter made her angry. She'd been thinking of a new, bigger plan for months, and now it was ready. Isla's private investigator, Marcus, sat across from her. "Are you sure you want to do this?" he asked. "Once we start, there's no turning back." Isla's nails clicked on her glass. "Tell me again what you found out about her grandmother's art school," she said. Marcus read from his papers. Eva Mitchell ran an art program in Southside Chicago from 1975 to 1993. The school received grants, including one from the Cooper Foundation in 1989. Ela smiled cruelly. "And what about the money? Did she use it properly?" Marcus hesitated. "There are some records showing strange use of the money. It's never been proven, but it looks suspicious." Ela's smile grew wider. "So Lena Carter's grandmother wasn't a saint after all? Her whole artistic career is built on fraud." At the same time, Nathan Brooks and Lena Carter were finding a new place to live. They found a beautiful old house in Lincoln Park, a neighborhood full of artists and young people making old buildings new again. It wasn't in the fancy part of the city, but they loved it. "It needs work," Nathan Brooks said, standing in what would soon be their living room. The sunlight came through the tall windows, showing all the possibilities in the house. Lena Carter walked through the space, her eyes filled with ideas. "It's perfect," she said softly. "It's a blank canvas." They spent the day planning how to fix it up. Their different skills, Nathan Brooks's knowledge of architecture and Lena Carter's eye for art, came together to make something that was completely theirs. The next day, Lena Carter went to work, only to find her friend Catherine waiting for her. "They're reopening the investigation into the Cooper Foundation grant from 1989, Catherine said. "There are allegations that the money was used wrong." Lena Carter couldn't believe it. "That's impossible." "My grandmother kept records of everything. She used that money to buy art supplies for kids who couldn't afford them." Catherine looked serious. "Isla's behind this. She's not just attacking you anymore. She's going after your grandmother's legacy." The investigation moved quickly, with Isla using her power and money to push it forward. Soon, there were stories in the news accusing Lena Carter's grandmother of fraud. Nathan Brooks was furious. "This ends now," he said, storming into Isla's office. "You can try to ruin me, but going after a dead woman's reputation is just wrong." Isla looked at him coldly. "Humanity? That's rich coming from someone who is throwing away his family's legacy for a girl from the wrong side of the tracks." "You're wrong about her," Nathan Brooks said quietly. "And you're wrong about what makes a legacy worth protecting." Isla had one more card to play. Ask her about the scholarship scandal at her university. Ask her why she really switched schools in her junior year. That night, Nathan Brooks asked Lena Carter about it. She hesitated before answering. "I was accused of plagiarism. A wealthy donor's daughter said I stole her work. It wasn't true, though. I was cleared, but it was so hard that I transferred to a new school." "Why didn't you tell me?" Nathan Brooks asked, hurt. Lena Carter's eyes filled with tears. "Because every time I let myself believe I belong in your world, people like your sister remind me that I don't. They think I'm just trying to steal what isn't mine." Nathan Brooks laughed softly. "My world? Lena Carter, don't you see? I don't want that world. I want ours, the one we're building together." But even as they held each other, Isla's plan was unfolding. She had arranged for fake evidence to be found in the records of Eva Mitchell's art school. This evidence was meant to destroy her reputation and accuse Lena Carter of covering it up for years. What Isla didn't expect was that her husband Bryson was starting to see how wrong all of this was. He confronted her one final time. "This obsession is destroying you," he said. "What are you really protecting? Fear of change, fear of losing control? I can't watch you do this anymore." He left her, leaving divorce papers on her desk. The next day, something incredible happened. At the community center where Eva Mitchell had taught art to children, Lena Carter and Nathan Brooks met with former students. These were the people whose lives had been changed by Eva's program. One man stood up, his voice full of emotion. Eva saved my life. When everyone else thought I was trouble, she saw I was an artist. Now I run my own design firm and employ 20 people from this neighborhood. Story after story came from people whose lives had been transformed, all because one woman believed in them. Eva Mitchell's legacy wasn't in money or grants, it was in the lives she changed. Back at their house, Nathan Brooks held Lena Carter as she finally let herself cry. "I feel sorry for her," she whispered. "Isla is so afraid of losing her world that she's destroying everything around her." Nathan Brooks kissed her forehead. "Some people build walls, others build bridges. My sister never understood that protecting something doesn't mean keeping others out. It means making it strong enough to welcome them in." Isla, sitting alone in her cell, saw the news about her downfall. For the first time, she realized what she had tried to destroy and how much it cost her. Months later, the trial of Isla Bennett was underway. It was a huge deal, not just because of what she did, but because of what it said about the way society is changing. Lena Carter sat on the witness stand, her voice strong and clear. She talked about how Ella had tried to destroy not just her relationship with Nathan Brooks, but the idea that love could bring people together. She told the court how her grandmother's art program had given children hope. The trial went on for weeks. It wasn't just about Isla anymore. It became about bigger problems in society. People started talking about it online. Many supported Lena Carter and Nathan Brooks, seeing their love story as something to celebrate. Finally, Bryson took the stand. "I watched the woman I loved disappear into her hate," he said. "She became so focused on keeping things the way they were that she lost everything." Then, something unexpected happened. Isla, usually so controlled, broke down. "Do you know why?" she screamed. "Because she threatened everything I worked for, not just with her background, but with her authenticity. People loved her for who she really was." The courtroom went silent. In that moment, Isla revealed more than any evidence could. She wasn't just fighting against Lena Carter and Nathan Brooks' love, she was fighting against the changes. They showed that all the walls she had built around herself were useless. The jury took less than 6 hours to decide, and they said she was guilty of everything. As Isla was taken away to start her 3-year sentence, she saw Nathan Brooks and Lena Carter in the crowd. They weren't happy. Instead, there was sadness in their eyes, not because of the justice served, but because so much energy had been wasted on hatred. After the trial, some surprising things started to happen. Samuel Bennett, who had helped create the toxic culture, finally faced the truth and said he was going to change things. The Cooper Foundation started programs to help make the art world more diverse. But the most important changes were personal. Nathan Brooks and Lena Carter went back to their home. It had been fixed up and now felt like a mix of both of their worlds. They had finished making it beautiful. As they sat in their garden one evening, Nathan Brooks said, "I've been thinking about what Isla said, about being real." Lena Carter was looking at the plans for their next project, a community arts center inspired by her grandmother's program. "What if we started a program to help young artists and architects from places that don't have many chances?" he asked. Lena Carter smiled, remembering her grandmother's words, "When you lift others up, you build stairs to heaven." Their love story had become something bigger than just them. It had shown that real change was possible and that old systems and prejudices could be challenged. Even Isla, sitting in her prison cell, was starting to change. She asked for books on civil rights, history, and things she had never paid attention to. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. 3 months after the trial, Nathan Brooks and Lena Carter hosted a big event in their home. The walls were filled with art from new artists and well-known names. There was even a special piece made by students in their new program showing a bridge being built between two worlds. It had a quote that said, "Love doesn't divide worlds, it creates new ones." Lena Carter thought about her grandmother, Eva Mitchell, who had always known that real strength wasn't in keeping walls up, but in having the courage to tear them down. As time passed, Nathan Brooks and Lena Carter's program kept growing. They started helping young people with scholarships and work experience, and they worked with older professionals to help those in need. "It's not just about giving people chances," Nathan Brooks said in an interview. "It's about changing the way we think about who belongs in these spaces and who gets to shape our future." Like, their home had become a place where people from all walks of life came together to talk about how they could make the world better through art. Samuel Bennett, who had been part of the old system, started changing too. He realized he had been wrong. "For years, we thought we were protecting something by keeping others out," he said. "But all we did was build walls around ourselves." A year after the trial, Lena Carter received a letter from Isla. It said, "I've been watching what you and Nathan Brooks are doing. I used to fight against what you stand for, but now I see I was wrong. You didn't just build a bridge between worlds, you showed there should never have been separate worlds." The Mitchell Cooper Foundation started a huge new project to turn empty buildings into places where artists and architects could live and work. The goal wasn't just to give people a space to create, but to give them the chance to dream. When they announced the project, they said, "Every person who dares to dream deserves a chance to make that dream real." Isla, after leaving prison, joined the project. She wanted to help because she had learned so much about humanity while in prison. She used her experience to help make the project work. "Redemption isn't about erasing the past," she said. "It's about building a better future." 2 years after the trial, the projects kept growing, helping many people. Lena Carter was also expecting their first child, a daughter. One evening, as they stood on their rooftop watching the city lights, Nathan Brooks hugged Lena Carter, his hand on her belly. "Your grandmother would be so proud," he said. "We're not just continuing her legacy, we're making it even bigger." Lena Carter smiled, thinking of how far they had come from their first meeting in a gallery to where they were now. Their love story wasn't just about them anymore. It was about creating real change in the world. Their grandmother had once said, "Art is like love. It doesn't shrink when you share it, it grows." Lena Carter felt that truth, is knowing the love and change they were making was growing and spreading. At the Mitchell Cooper Foundation's yearly gala, their work was celebrated. People from all over came together to share ideas, not because they were important, but because they had changed the conversation about who gets to be part of the future. Eva, their daughter, was there, already showing signs of her parents' influence. As Nathan Brooks and Lena Carter watched her, they knew the work they had started would continue, not just through them, but through the next generation. Later, as they stood in their rooftop garden, Isla watched them from the door. The guilt from her past still stayed with her, but it had turned into something positive, something that helped her create a better world. "She's the future we were all fighting for," Isla said softly, watching her niece. "A child who will never question whether love has limits." Nathan Brooks and Lena Carter looked at each other. Their love story wasn't just their own anymore. It had become a story of change for the whole world, and it would continue through their daughter. The next morning, Eva would see another community project open, another bridge built between people who once didn't understand each other. But for now, they were just a family, surrounded by the garden they had grown together. Proof that love, when given space to grow, could change hearts and the world. 20 years later, Eva stood at the United Nations talking about how her parents had shown that beauty and love could grow anywhere. The Mitchell Cooper Foundation had become a global movement, changing lives on 6 continents, with projects that brought people together to make the world a better place. As Eva spoke about their latest project in Harlem, she said, "Architecture isn't just about buildings, it's about creating spaces where dreams can grow." Nathan Brooks and Lena Carter sat quietly, watching their daughter with pride. Even though their hair had turned silver over the years, their eyes still had the same spark they had when they first challenged Chicago's social rules. They were sitting next to Ila, their daughter, who had become a strong voice for change. Ila's journey was incredible. After she got out of prison, she decided to spend her life working to change the systems she once helped build. The connections she had with big companies, which used to keep people apart, were now used to help those who needed it most. "My aunt taught me," Eva said, nodding at Ila, "that change isn't just possible, it's necessary. The most important thing is not to keep building walls, but to build bridges." Behind her, a screen showed the Foundation's new project called Project Bloom. It was a global network of places where people could come together, learn, and share ideas. The buildings were designed to blend with nature and make the cities around them better. In the front row, Catherine Hayes, who was now in her 80s, smiled. She had watched Eva grow up from a curious little girl to a leader who mixed her mother's artistic touch, her father's architectural skills, and her own passion for protecting the environment. After the presentation, the family went to the rooftop garden of the UN building. This space had been designed by Eva as a test project to bring plants and farming into the city. They could see the whole New York skyline in front of them, filled with endless possibilities. "Do you remember," Lena Carter asked, touching a vine of flowers, "when you used to ask us to tell you our story every night?" Eva smiled, remembering those moments. "I used to think it was just a love story," she said, "but really it was a plan to change the world." Nathan Brooks put his arm around Lena Carter and said, "Every love story can change the world. We just had the courage to let ours do it." Isla, who had worked hard to change herself and help others, watched as her niece, Eva's daughter, looked at a new hydroponic system in the garden. Isla smiled. "She has your spirit," she said softly, "and my determination, but at least she's using it for good things." The sun was setting, casting a golden light over the city. It was like the day when Nathan Brooks and Lena Carter first met at an art gallery. Their love story had become something bigger than just the two of them. It had turned into a movement, a new way of thinking. It was about seeing the world not as it is, but as it could be. As the family got ready for the anniversary gala, Eva paused to take one last look at the view. Below them, the city buzzed with life, and people's lives had been changed by the love her parents had built. She turned to her parents and said, "Great-grandmother Eva once said that art can save lives, but you've shown that love is the greatest art of all, the art of building new worlds." That evening at the gala, Eva announced the Foundation's biggest project yet, a global effort to create cultural communities in places torn apart by war, using art and architecture to bring peace. In the crowd, Nathan Brooks and Lena Carter held hands, knowing that their love story had helped create a new world where future generations would understand that the only boundaries that matter are the ones we decide to break. Years passed and the Mitchell Cooper Foundation turned 100. They had completed their most ambitious project, the Global Harmony Initiative. Eva, now in her 50s, stood at the top of the Foundation's new headquarters, which looked like it was floating between the earth and the sky. The building itself told the story of their work, using recycled materials and solar energy to create a space that was good for the earth. Lena Carter, the African Union delegates are here, Eva's daughter, young Lena Carter said. She was 20 years old and full of energy and purpose, just like her parents and grandparents. Lena Carter had helped create a new technology called the neural interface. It allowed communities to design their spaces together, using their minds to share ideas. In the main hall, Lena Carter showed the African delegation how the system worked. "Do you remember when we thought changing Chicago was a big challenge?" Lena Carter's mother asked, looking at Nathan Brooks. "You always dreamed bigger than anyone else." Isla, now in her later years, joined them. She had been a big part of their family's work and had helped so many people change their lives. "This new technology is amazing," she said, "but what really makes it special is that it gives everyone a voice." Lena Carter's neural interface let people from different parts of the world connect their minds to design shared spaces. It showed how communities could dream and create together, no matter where they were. "Look at how far we've come," Eva said to the crowd. "This isn't just about technology. It's about a journey that started when two people dared to love each other and break boundaries. We've shown that walls aren't the answer. Understanding each other is." Later, all over the world, people celebrated. In Mumbai, dancers performed with glowing sculptures. In Lagos, drummers worked with AI to create music. In São Paulo, gardens grew in beautiful patterns. At the end of the day, 4 generations of the Cooper Mitchell family gathered in the rooftop garden of their headquarters. This garden combined nature and technology with living plants and robots that helped care for the space. "Tell me again," young Lena Carter said, sitting next to her great-grandmother, "about how you and Grandpa met and how love can change the world." Lena Carter's grandmother smiled, looking at her husband, then at their daughter, and finally at their granddaughter. "The story began," she said, "on a fall evening in Chicago when a young curator and an architect discovered that love doesn't just cross boundaries, it erases them." The family watched as the city lights twinkled below. The world had changed in ways that seemed impossible 60 years ago. But as Lena Carter's new technology showed, they were just getting started. The next chapter of their family's legacy was already being written, one shared dream at a time. Years later, young Lena Carter stood in the Harmony 1 space colony, Earth's first colony in space. At 25, she had taken her family's work even farther, into the stars. The Mitchell Cooper Foundation had grown beyond anything her great-grandparents could have imagined. What began as a love story in Chicago had become a movement that now reached beyond Earth. "Lena Carter, the space colony is ready," she said with a smile. "We're proving that art and innovation can thrive in space too." The colony was designed with biomorphic architecture that reacted to the environment, creating a balance of beauty and function. People on Earth and in space could connect their minds through technology and design their homes together. As the family got ready for the anniversary gala, Eva paused to take one last look at the view. Below them, the city buzzed with life, and people's lives had been changed by the love her parents had built. She turned to her parents and said, "Great-grandmother Eva once said that art can save lives, but you've shown that love is the greatest art of all, the art of building new worlds." That evening at the gala, Eva announced the foundation's biggest project yet, a global effort to create cultural communities in places torn apart by war, using art and architecture to bring peace. In the crowd, Nathan Brooks and Lena Carter held hands, knowing that their love story had helped create a new world where future generations would understand that the only boundaries that matter are the ones we decide to break. Years passed, and the Mitchell Cooper Foundation turned 100. They had completed their most ambitious project, the Global Harmony Initiative. Eva, now in her 50s, stood at the top of the foundation's new headquarters, which looked like it was floating between the earth and the sky. The building itself told the story of their work, using recycled materials and solar energy to create a space that was good for the earth. Lena Carter, the African Union delegates are here, Eva's daughter, young Lena Carter said. She was 20 years old, and full of energy and purpose, just like her parents and grandparents. Lena Carter had helped create a new technology called the neural interface. It allowed communities to design their spaces together, using their minds to share ideas. In the main hall, Lena Carter showed the African delegation how the system worked. "Do you remember when we thought changing Chicago was a big challenge?" Lena Carter's mother asked, looking at Nathan Brooks. "You always dreamed bigger than anyone else." Isla, now in her later years, joined them. She had been a big part of their family's work and had helped so many people change their lives. "This new technology is amazing," she said, "but what really makes it special is that it gives everyone a voice." Lena Carter's neural interface let people from different parts of the world connect their minds to design shared spaces. It showed how communities could dream and create together, no matter where they were. "Look at how far we've come," Eva said to the crowd. "This isn't just about technology. It's about a journey that started when two people dared to love each other and break boundaries. We've shown that walls aren't the answer. Understanding each other is." Later, all over the world, people celebrated. In Mumbai, dancers performed with glowing sculptures. In Lagos, drummers worked with AI to create music. In São Paulo, gardens grew in beautiful patterns. At the end of the day, 4 generations of the Cooper Mitchell family gathered in the rooftop garden of their headquarters. This garden combined nature and technology with living plants and robots that helped care for the space. "Tell me again," young Lena Carter said, sitting next to her great-grandmother, "about how you and Grandpa met and how love can change the world." Lena Carter's grandmother smiled, looking at her husband, then at their daughter, and finally at their granddaughter. "The story began," she said, "on a fall evening in Chicago when a young curator and an architect discovered that love doesn't just cross boundaries, it erases them." The family watched as the city lights twinkled below. The world had changed in ways that seemed impossible 60 years ago. But as Lena Carter's new technology showed, they were just getting started. The next chapter of their family's legacy was already being written, one shared dream at a time. Years later, young Lena Carter stood in the Harmony One space colony, Earth's first colony in space. At 25, she had taken her family's work even farther, into the stars. The Mitchell Cooper Foundation had grown beyond anything her great-grandparents could have imagined. What began as a love story in Chicago had become a movement that now reached beyond Earth. "Lena Carter, the space colony is ready," she said with a smile. "We're proving that art and innovation can thrive in space too." The colony was designed with biomorphic architecture that reacted to the environment, creating a balance of beauty and function. People on Earth and in space could connect their minds through technology and design their homes together. Young Lena Carter then revealed a special gift for their anniversary: the Phoenix Sphere, a floating monument between Earth and the space colony. This sphere would serve as a healing place for anyone in pain. It would connect them with people who had overcome struggles and thrived. As the celebration ended, 4 generations of women stood together, holding hands in a circle of strength. The neural interface created a beautiful display of art from their shared feelings, which filled the whole dome. Eva spoke one last time, reminding everyone that love is not just about finding the right person, it's about becoming your true self, no matter what others try to take away from you. She said that their family's legacy wasn't about what they built, but about what they rebuilt from broken pieces. The message spread across the solar system. To every woman who had been hurt by jealousy, your pain isn't the end. Your betrayal isn't your future. You are just beginning. Love again and build something beautiful. As Earth's light mixed with the stars, the Cooper Mitchell Women's Circle became a symbol of the truth that real love heals hearts and creates new worlds from that healing. Thank you for watching. If you like this story and want to see more, please subscribe to our channel. That way you won't miss any new videos. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and share what you think in the comments. We love hearing your thoughts. Also, don't forget to check out the other videos on our channel. We'll see you in the next story.